So nice to see everyone. So today we are going to talk a little bit about Hanukkah, some ideas, some insights, some thoughts, and hopefully tomorrow we'll continue in our regular routine, also Hanukkah related, but we'll go into a few different aspects. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about why we're so public with the menorah lighting. That could be a nice shiur tomorrow, and we could discuss different aspects. But let me start with this. Wherever you are, if you are at home, or if you are wherever you might be, I'm sure there's a menorah Chanukiah around you somewhere, so I want you to point to the Chanukiah. Have you found your Chanukiah? You're pointing towards it? My friends, you're pointing in the wrong direction. Wrong direction. You know why? Because for the menorah, what I want you to do is point at yourself. That's right. Point at yourself. Because the message I want to tell you today is you are the greatest source of light that is out there. That's it. You're the greatest source of light that there is. Our tradition teaches us that every person should look at the world as if it's a 50-50 scale, right? And you can tip it to the right by doing another mitzvah, another good deed. You are tipping it, the entire scale, in a positive direction. By every day adding a little bit more light, one more act of goodness and kindness, we could bring Mashiach. We could change the world for good. And therefore, I want to say to you, my dear friends, with me here today, Chabad Seniors Club, not only are you the menorah, but you are also the shamash. Because the shamash is the one that gives the direction. If we think about the last 20 months or so of everything that we've been going through and the challenging, difficult times that these have been, you know, I know what it's like having 7 little kinderlach at home running around, and as grandparents, you have a different sense of involvement as the babas and zaydas that you're the inspiration to your families. And so you courageously stood tall and patiently in order to ignite, to bring light to your children, to your family, to the spirit, to the soul. And when schools have closed and many activities, that are even today still not back up to speed, and yet as parents, as grandparents, you rose to the occasion. You ignited their spirit with the warmth of the Jewish life, the passionate observance and practice. And you were the inspiration. You weren't just a menorah, you were a shamash. A shamash serves the other candles. That's the shamash. You're there to bring that inspiration, that warmth. Could say you're the modern day Maccabees. And perhaps this has been the silver lining throughout this pandemic. While outdoors there was so much confusion and anxiety, but indoors we created homes filled with light and joyous Jewish living. I can't think of any time before in history where, never before have homes been so much the focus. Maybe long ago, but I don't think so. If you think of it in the past, it was people worked outdoors. That's where life was. Life was in the fields. That was where life was celebrated. And today, it is each of us. We put the emphasis on the home. We realize Yiddishkeit is celebrated more at home. Yes, it's true we go to shul. Yes, it's true we go other places. But the emphasis of our Yiddishkeit, the observance, is what happens in the house. And it's true today, especially you have this new mutation. Nobody knows what's going on. There's a lot of confusion and anxiety. But in the house, each of us, we are able to create the warmth, the beauty. We're able to fill our homes with light, with joyous living. That's our responsibility. So we think of the word Hanukkah. Hanukkah means dedication. On Hanukkah, we have the opportunity to rededicate our homes as the epicenter of our Yiddishkeit. As the dreidels that we play, In Israel, it says Nes Gadol Haya Po. In our dreidels, it's Nun Gimel Hey and Shin. But in Israel, it's Nun Gimel Hey Pei. Nes Gadol Haya Po. You have made your homes. Though they were often spinning into different directions throughout this period. But I think you put it into made a great miracle. And the blessing I have for each of us during this time is that we should continue to help express each of our children's, or in your case, grandchildren, their light, their unique, indispensable light that each one of them possesses. To realize that that light is something that each child has their own light, and each child is a lamp lighter, and as it's Hanukkah and it's COVID, we are to be super spreaders of light, of kindness. That's our job. That's our task. That's what we are here for. To super spread acts of, not just random, acts of, I was looking for another word for arc that we recently came up with, acts of routine kindness. That's what we want. So let's think of a few ideas that Hanukkah teaches us. We look at the very word Hanukkah. On the one hand, it's Chanu Chaf Hei, that they rested on the 25th of Kislev, which is today. So today is the anniversary of the Hanukkah story, because it started today on the 25th of Kislev. But the word Hanukkah is also related to the word Chinuch. Chinuch means education. So the essence of Hanukkah is education. It's inspiring our youth. While the Greeks were fixated on building gymnasiums and sports arenas, and the focus was on the physical, on the physique, blinding the world with the focus and emphasis on physicality. What were the Jewish children doing in the Hanukkah story? They were risking their lives to study Torah. That's why we play the dreidel. The dreidel is a decoy. That's why we give Hanukkah gelt, to remind us of that little ploy that the kids used playing dreidel to pretend they were playing, but really we know that they were studying, because what they knew was to guarantee the future of our Judaism. It's not in buildings, it's not in the bricks and mortar, it is in the Torah itself that we study. It's here. It's in the books. And they had to do whatever it takes, risking their lives to ensure the future of Judaism. And as their light was found in the ancient books of wisdom of the Torah back then, they knew exactly that's what's going to keep them going, as that's what keeps us going. Throughout COVID, we've hardly missed a shir here. We started as soon as we went into lockdown, and we kept it going. Of course, there are times when there's load shedding or kinos or whatever it might be that it's not possible. Maybe we'll need a little bit of a break during holidays, although we'll try to keep the shir going nevertheless. But we realize that in order to keep our Yiddishkeit, the flames of Judaism alive, we need to study Torah. Why did Judaism? Think of all the other civilizations of the ancient world, many of them gone into history. You can find them on Wikipedia, that's about it. But how did we not only survive but thrive? Because Judaism valued the home more than the battlefield, marriage more than military grandeur, and children more than generals. Peace in the home mattered to our ancestors more than the greatest military victory. And this is an interesting law. There's a very interesting law about Hanukkah. What if on Friday afternoon you're on holiday somewhere and you all of a sudden discover that you only have one candle? What are you meant to do? Let's pick up. You only have one candle. One candle. What are you going to light? Are you going to light the Hanukkah candle? Or are you going to light the Shabbos candle? Which one will it be? So what does Judaism teach us? The Gemara tells us the Shabbos light takes priority because it symbolizes Shalom Bayit, domestic peace in the home. And great is peace, because the entire Torah was given in order to make peace in the world. That's the purpose. That's the emphasis. That's what it's about. So to think that Hanukkah commemorates one of the greatest military victories in Jewish history, but Jewish law rules that if we can only light one single candle, the Shabbos light takes precedence over the Hanukkah candle. Because in Judaism, the greatest military victory takes second place to peace in the home. So as we celebrate, and here we are, celebrating Hanukkah together, just think about what's the real victory, which was not military victory, but a spiritual victory. Jews were the people who valued the home, the peace in the home, marriage, peace between husband and wife, ensuring the well-being of our children. That's what's greater to us, the highest glory, much greater than the battlefield. Just a second, guys. Let me just close the door. There's a little bit of noise, other shiurim going on here. Just a minute. I'm back. Okay. So, where was I holding? We were talking about the importance of education, of chinuch, the home, the significance that the home plays in Judaism as emphasized in the Hanukkah story. Now, I'm just going to go in different tangents and different directions. Feel free to ask questions at any point. But the Hanukkah miracle, if you think about it, is an almost exact replica of the miracle that God chose to demonstrate to Moshe Rabbeinu when he appointed him to become the leader of the Jewish people. We all know this scene very well. Moshe was tending to his sheep in the desert when he was struck by a vision that clearly transcended the laws of nature. A bush was burning, and yet the Einenu Ukal, it was not consumed. Why was this? Think about how God reveals himself to Moshe, the very first meeting. Why is it symbolized by a bush that was burning but was not consumed by the fire? Moshe Rabbeinu was about to begin a journey of leadership that would last many years and demand of him tremendous amount of dedication, hard work, commitment. And it would certainly not be easy for Moshe. As we know, we study the Torah, we know that we weren't an easy people. So if your kids are being difficult, just remember what our great-grandparents were like. The greatest difficulty facing someone with a task that over time may very well become overwhelming, unbearable. You know what that challenge, I think, is? Burnout. And it sometimes happens, and especially in the pastoral profession. It's something that's very common. I read a study that oftentimes pastors, rabbis, imams, they get overworked. And burnout is very, very common. You know, think about it, day after day, year after year, to be forced to confront all the different tests that Moshe Rabbeinu had to face as the rabbi of his people, of his flock, as their teacher, as the ruler over the Jewish people. It wasn't easy. And as a little rabbi, I could tell you there's lots of challenges. It's not an easy job. Don't think we're getting paid the big bucks to just sit back and relax. It takes work. And it would appear to be beyond human that Moshe was able to endure, that he was able to handle the slavery, the bondage, the taskmasters, the murder, the persecution, all the difficulties that the Jews were experiencing when he was their leader in the desert. So, you would think Moshe could have been consumed by his mission. And this is the remarkable truth that God was revealing to Moshe with the sign of the burning bush. There's no burnout in the realm of the saintly. When the bush fulfills the will of God, it's not consumed. In the realm of the holy, natural law no longer exists, no longer applies. So his first vision, that assured him that the despondency and the depression of burnout would never be his fate. Having a holy purpose for his existence would guarantee his dreams remain fresh and vibrant, continuously alive. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was being taught by the fire, by the burning bush not being consumed. That those whose careers centered around making money often became tired of the grind, of the difficulties, of the challenges, depressed by the unchanging scenario of daily living. They lost focus, and yes, many people burn out. They're consumed, they're withered. But those who identified their lives with purpose, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us, even though I know studies show that many in the pastoral profession do tend to get burnout, Moshe is telling us that shouldn't be the case. We should be reinvigorated every day. We should be rejuvenated by this pursuit of the holy, by bringing light to the lives and of everyone around us, to ourselves and to our families and to our communities, far beyond what might be considered natural. The light of the menorah burning far longer than natural law, it serves as an everlasting reminder that by infusing every area of life with purpose, with holiness, we will never burn out. So here's a little meditation that I found that I want to read to you. Okay? When you look at the candles, light, what do you hear? Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam is what we said, quoting last week. The study in Chassidus, it's a very often quoted verse from Proverbs, from Mishlei. Shlomo HaMelech says, the soul of man is God's candle. So if our soul is God's candle, then each of us possesses a candle inside of us. And you notice the flickering flame and listen to its whisper. Are you thinking, I'm always surrounded and shrouded by darkness? Listen to the whisper. Remember, you are a candle. You wouldn't be needed if the world was filled with light, because all of our struggles, all of your light is valuable. Are you thinking, I'm depleted? Where will I get the rest of my strength? Listen to the whisper. Remember, you are a candle, and your wick is tucked inside. You have an enormous fuel tank within. Are you thinking, everyone just takes from me and has so many demands and expectations? I'm emptied out. Listen to the whisper. Remember, you are a candle. That is the greatest calling you have, to live a selfless life. God chose you to light up others, to be a servant, not to be served. Are you thinking, I will burn out shortly in 30 minutes, or minimum amount of time that the candle, that the menorah is meant to stay lit? My efforts will have gone to naught. Is this a waste of time? Listen to the whisper, my friends. Remember, you are a candle, and you never know who is carrying your light today. Are you thinking, I often have so much anxiety, feel stressed? Listen to the whisper. Remember, you are a candle. Remind your body every once in a while that you're a container to an inexhaustible, unbreakable fragment of God. Your soul, your neshama. And so, sometimes if you're feeling alone, you need some happiness to call your own. Nothing is going the way it should, even though you're trying the very best you could. Remember, lift up your eyes to the sky. Your hands, put your trust in Him, in His hands, and He'll reply. Remember, you're never alone. There's nothing in His eyes more special than you. Wherever you go, Hashem is with you. You are His candle. You are indispensable to God's plan in this world. Remember that message always. You are that candle. And don't let it fade away. Let me share with you, throughout the many years of exile in the Gullus, the menorah was removed from its rightful place. The original menorah in the temple, we discussed last week, was lit indoors. But to commemorate the Hanukkah miracle, we do something called Persumei Nisa. We spread the miracle of the light. We want people to know it's Jewish PR. And so the mitzvah was to light the menorah, the Chanukiah rather, outside. But unfortunately, throughout the dark, long years of galus, of exile, of living in diaspora outside our Holy Land, we've had to move it inside. In many places in the world, we weren't able to light our menorah outside. There would be anti-Semitism, we'd be attacked. So it became necessary to move the menorah from the outside inside. There was fear of persecution, and there was fear that discrimination. So the thing is, in recent times, as the Rebbe inspired us, the Rebbe introduced this idea, the custom of lighting the giant menorahs in public places to bring back that original spirit of the day. I was watching last night not only our giant menorah, which we take pride in being the tallest menorah in Africa, 7 meters high, and I encourage you all to come join us at Santon City, the Rivonia entrance, where you can be part of the giant menorah lighting. A little secret to tell you, tomorrow we have the Israeli ambassador coming. I'm working on trying to get the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, to come as well. Let's see what happens. I'm going to call my contact soon to see if we'll be able to persuade him to come. The Rebbe said, light it outdoors. The Rebbe encouraged, we do all types of things to get everyone involved. Hanukkah candles are the light that Judaism brings to the world when we're unafraid to announce our identity in public, to live by our principles, and to defend, if necessary, for our freedom. As anyone who watched Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Hanukkah message yesterday, we reminded us exactly of that. He tells us that we're meant to light them. In just a second, guys. Who's this from? Which lady? Okay, guys, I got donuts. Am I meant to eat them all by myself? No, I'm going to bring them to the Hanukkah party for senior citizens later. You don't know who brought it? Oh, okay, we're back. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. So the Rebbe encouraged us that we should light our menorahs in the public space, not to be afraid, not to be intimidated. We have to be proudly Jewish, and I believe everyone should be proud of their identity, of their heritage, of who they are. So this is an important part of our role in this world, and if we are proud of who we are, then I think we will be allowed, we will be respected for who we are. Very, very important. There always are two ways to live in a world that's often dark and full of struggles, challenges, and tears. We could cause the darkness, we could curse the darkness, or we could light a candle. And as Hasidim like to say, a little light drives away a lot of darkness. Ma'at or, a little bit of light, will dispel lots of the darkness. So let's light up the world. And let me tell you, lighting up the world starts with ourselves. We need to lighten up our own life. We need to be enthusiastic and excited and passionate. And if, as we learned in rabbinic school, either you put fire into the sermon and put the sermon in the fire, either you have to just live passionately. There was a famous football coach who used to say to his players, Either you be fired with enthusiasm or I'll fire you with enthusiasm. So make sure to be fired with enthusiasm. And of course, where does the fire come from? The fire of the menorah, although we've given you candles, all of you who got the menorah sets, if you didn't get one, please talk to me after the shiur, make sure you do get one. But the ideal way to light your menorah is with oil. Oil could warm for an evening. Pure oil burns for eternity. The miracle of Hanukkah isn't just that the candles lasted for 8 nights. It's that the candles of the menorah have been burning ever since, for the last 2,200 years since the Hanukkah story. And this is something fascinating that I want to share. I'm sorry to bust any Hebrew school myths. Tradition says that when the Maccabees walked into the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash, there was no lack of oil at all. There was plenty of oil there. There was plenty of oil. They actually tripped on so many cruises of oil. In fact, enough oil to last many, many years. Okay? Probably the Jews were doing very well with oil in those days. They found imported oil, organic oil, Greek improved oil. Yet for some reason, they kept searching. Why? If you have all this oil, why did they have to search? What's the big deal about the miracle of Hanukkah if there was plenty of oil there anyways? So, why was it necessary? Why did they have to search for oil? Very simply, if you know the story of Hanukkah, you know that it wasn't a lack of oil that necessitated, that brought about the miracle. They were looking for the pure olive oil, authentic oil that was sealed with the Chosma Shel Kohen Gadol, with the seal of the high priest of the Kohen Gadol. Why? You know, often when we come home starving after a long day of work, I know that for myself at least, I don't get donuts to my office every day. This is special occasions. So what do? At least speaking for myself. Come home, probably rushing to Mincha Ma'ariv, dash into the kitchen, eat the first thing I see, okay? Being famished, desperately hungry, move quickly. I can't say it's anything really healthy always. Find some biscuits, some cookies, some crisps, and before we know it, I've eaten half a dozen of them, and I'm still starving. We still don't feel nourished. When we finally get a grip on ourselves and find food that actually has some nutrients, a fresh apple, a grapefruit, that's when we're satisfied. Because we aren't just looking for food. We're looking for the nutrients to energize us. And my friends, like the Maccabees of yesterday, aren't we too on a personal search? We ask ourselves, what will give my life inner purpose? What's going to allow me to feel the sparkling joy of living? How will I ignite the inner cruise of my life, of my soul? What's going to do it? We're filled with ambition, fearless spirit. Is there anything that we set our minds and hearts to do that we can't accomplish? We all want to be successful. People want to make money. That's the barometer of success these days. Right? Then we know that we've done well. Is there anything we set our minds to do that we can't accomplish? Now, if money indeed is the definition of success, it's a wonderful cruise of oil. But for some reason, that's not bringing people happiness. Now, to quote Jackie Mason, Alav Shalom, he used to say, money won't buy you happiness, but I'd rather be miserable in a nice house and a nice car and a good holiday. But we're still searching. We feel a void. Because deep in our hearts, we know that lives centered exclusively around things, around gadgets, around glitz and glamour and money and stuff. We think that's a success. But that becomes tiring. We get exhausted from holidays, right? Then we need a holiday from holidays. It's nice to have those things, but that is not what's going to nourish our spirit sufficiently. Just like when I come home and eat a whole bag of crisps or cookies, it's not what fills me up. So we search until we find that cruse of oil, a glimmer of something real, something spiritual, a holy purpose which guarantees our lives remain fresh and dynamic and vibrant. The dedication to something larger than myself, more than just being and existing, rather bringing light to make a real difference. And that's the message. Keep on searching until you find this cruise in your life. Can't afford to get jaded. You know, there's a classical question that's asked by many of the commentaries, starting with the Beit Yosef in Orach Chaim in the Shulchan Aruch. Why is Hanukkah? Why do we celebrate this festival for 8 days? Why for 8 days? If there was enough oil in the flask that was found, remember the story, to last for a whole 1 day, then the miracle of oil lasting was really a miracle for 7 days, not 8 days. So why do we celebrate Hanukkah as an 8-day holiday? What's going on? I just need to ask, who became the host? Someone else is the host now. I was booted from being host and somebody else became the host. And therefore, I can't mute everybody. Okay, let's see what's happening. I'm just trying to mute so we don't have the distraction. Regardless. So the point, this is a question that's asked by many of the commentaries, and I'm sure you may have studied, there's many answers out there, but one of the answers is that the miracle of the first night is the fact that the Jews searched and they didn't stop searching. They didn't despair. Think about it. The Beis HaMikdash was ransacked by the Assyrian Greeks. They destroyed so many parts of it. It wasn't demolished. It wasn't completely destroyed as the Romans did, but there were parts that were demolished. They were devastated. And the Jews found total chaos when they came back there. That's why it's Chanukah, which means dedication. They had to rededicate the temple. Now, who would have imagined, who would ever consider in such an environment, is that the priority to search for pure olive oil? Can you not make do with regular olive oil? In fact, I believe, stand corrected, but I believe, halachically speaking, if you don't have pure olive oil, halachically you're allowed to kindle the menorah with non-pure olive oil, without the seal of the high priest, which was the kosher symbol to say that it was, UOS, Beth Din. Why did they have to search for the pure olive oil? They searched and they searched until they found what they were yearning for. They didn't want to settle for second best. Let me ask you, in life, we often see so much chaos and disarray. And what happens? Some people give up. They stop searching. They say genug. Rabbi Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mezrich, would relate a story when he was a kid. And I know we used to play this game when I was a kid, and my kids still play this game as their kids. So I'm assuming you also played this game because it seems like 250 years ago, Rabbi Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mezrich, played this game. Hide and go seek. You know that game? Yeah, you've played it? And he said that he once felt really bad because the kids played a prank on him. You ever did this prank? Where you say to the kid, go search, and everybody, how does it go? Everybody go hide and the kid doesn't search, something like that. And he said, I'm forgetting his metaphor, but he said basically the idea was that the kid stopped searching for him. He was hiding by himself and nobody was searching. Nobody was looking for him. And he felt really let down. And then he said, Almighty God, is that what's happening here? You are hiding. The concept we discussed last week, the deep idea of Chassidus, the concept of tzimtzum, that God contracted himself. God is concealed. God is hiding. But sometimes we stop searching. You ever lost something? In fact, I lost something 2 weeks ago on a plane. I lost my earpods and I still haven't replaced them because I can't bear to get myself to pay. I thought maybe Black Friday will be a special. It's still an arm and a leg. And I thought I'll email the airline. Maybe they found it. You know, you ever give up searching for something? In Gemara, the concept is called yush, where you despair, you give up. Unfortunately, some people give up sometimes too soon. They don't believe they can find what they're looking for. Maybe they stop searching for meaning, for purpose in life. We don't believe they can find that purity, that wholesomeness in the world, the joy or truth that they're looking for. We become jaded. Burnout. We give up on our dreams, on our passions, on our, what are you looking for? How many times people have been disappointed? Too many times. And they give up, they despair. So perhaps the first night of Hanukkah, amongst many other commentaries and explanations, is that we're celebrating not the miracle of the oil because there was enough oil to last one night, but more than the heavenly miracle, the human miracle, the courage of the human soul to never give up on possibilities, that you will find the jugs of spiritual oil in your life. And that's the message to each of us that I think is important. Don't give up. You're never too old. It's never too late. Don't give up. When our ancestors entered the Holy Temple after they won their freedom, and they searched and searched, they didn't give up. And guess what? That's when they found that small flask of oil. And so, let's just think, what can you seriously accomplish with one puny little bottle of oil? Right? It was just enough to last one night. It's a joke. Shouldn't they have said, let's wait until the barrels of the temple are once again replenished with plenty of, of pure oil? Or maybe we should go for second best and just use the non-pure oil. I mean, that was part of the Greeks' philosophy. They didn't get rid of the oil. They had no problem with lighting a menorah in the temple. It's nice. You have a wonderful tradition, a custom of bringing light, of candelabras. Perfect, not a problem. That's not something that the Assyrian Greeks opposed. Remember, they were very cultured and philosophical people. What did they do? They went and took up the seals of each one. Because the purity, the kosher element, that doesn't make sense. When something doesn't make sense, that they couldn't handle, they couldn't care for it. And this is what the Greeks were saying. You want to light your candles? Go ahead, light candles. But be like the rest of us. Be like everyone else out there. And we said, no, we're not going to despair. We're not giving up on our search for pure olive oil. We're going to do what's best for God. Because the whole story of Hanukkah itself is that. Think about the story of Hanukkah versus Purim. In the Purim story, which happened before Hanukkah, we don't see the Jews rebelling. We don't see a Maccabee team, a guerrilla warfare. We see diplomacy. We see Mordechai trying his roots. We see Esther becomes the queen. Everything in the Purim story, which we're going to get to in a couple of weeks' time, is all through natural means. But in Hanukkah's story, there's guerrilla warfare. We're fighting for our rights with might. What's going on? Why? So many beautiful commentaries on this. But there's one that really stood out to me that I thought is worthwhile to share with you, because I think it's a profound message that in the Purim story, God was there to protect and defend us. But in the Hanukkah story, we are there to defend and protect God. Because the Assyrian Greeks were not out for our bodies. Yes, there were many casualties. There were many Jews killed for not giving in, for not capitulating and conceding to their ways. But the Assyrian Greeks, they said, no, we let you live. They weren't Hitler. They weren't creating a Holocaust. They said, just not that way of life. We don't like that spirituality, that transcendent way, that beyond natural understanding. They focused on the physique. They focused on philosophy, on what makes sense, and science, and culture, and meaning, not on this godly stuff. In fact, read it in the Al Hanisim prayer that we've already said twice, last night and today, actually 3 times because we benched last night. In the Al Hanisim we say Lashkicham Torasecha. The purpose the Assyrian Greeks wanted to do was not to make us forget the Torah, but Torasecha, that it's God's Torah. Ulavira Mechuke Ritzanecha. Their problem was not that mitzvahs. They understand that every culture has its customs and traditions. But the fact that you're doing because God said so. Don't steal, don't kill. We all agree with that. But why the chukim? Why the statutes? Why do you have to keep kosher? Why does that make sense? Why do you have to observe Shabbos? Why can't you wear wool and linen together? It doesn't make sense. Don't do things that don't make sense. To the Assyrian Greeks, everything had to make sense. The Jewish way was no. It's the difference between 7 and 8. The Greeks focused on the natural beauty. The 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 days of the week, 7 notes in the musical scales. It's all about what makes sense. The Jewish way is 8. Defying nature. The circumcision which the Greeks outlawed. They said the physical body is perfect the way we come into the world. Why do you have to mutilate it with circumcision? On the 8th day. Shmona is 8. And guess what word you find in Shmona which is 8? Shemen, which is oil. The oil represents the Shmona, the 8. That we have to be a light amongst the nations. That we stand tall and above. That we don't just do what makes sense, we do what God says. So when you live a world shrouded with darkness, yeah, you can't wait. You have to light with whatever little oil you have. And, of course, that's why they didn't wait. They lit with that one flask of pure olive oil. Again, representing our defense of Almighty God. In the Hanukkah story, we defended God. We looked after Mama Beer. That's what we do. And our ancestors realized the urgency of the light. We sometimes think the day will come, someday I'll share the talents that I've been given. But not yet, not yet. I can't do it yet. Wait till my jug is full. Sometimes tell myself, I'll one day have time for voice lessons. Then I won't sound like a squeak or whatever I sound like. Then I could sing. Last night I said, you know what? We don't have a singer here. I'll sing the menorah songs. Sometimes you gotta just do it. Sometimes, don't tell myself when I'll have time. What does the Mishnah say? Don't say I'll do it when I have time, whatever it is. Maybe that day will never come. So don't wait till my career is in order and I'll figure it out what I want to do with my life. Wait till I have financial security. Oh, then things will work out. Wait till the kids get out of the house. Then I'll have the time. We all know those excuses don't work. Don't tell myself one day when I'm retired and then I'm too tired. I would love to be a light. To light the fire of my fellow Jew. To light the fire of humanity. But we all tell ourselves sometimes, I say, I don't have enough light of my own. What does the menorah remind us? That the world needs your little bit. What you might define as insignificant, what you might think is just a little bit of oil. The world needs it. You have enough oil to light up the entire world. What would the Rebbe say? If you know enough, you know how to pronounce the letter Aleph, teach it to a friend who doesn't know it. If you have a mitzvah that talks to you, welcome your friend to join along with you. Be that flask of oil. Just as they lit the menorah, even just with a little bit of oil. And then what happened? God performed a miracle. And I could see the same thing in my own life. You do your part, Hashem will do a miracle. God will perform a miracle, and that light will grow. That light will shine. It will go beyond what you ever imagined. There's a fascinating argument, a debate in the Talmud. Can you take one Hanukkah light from another? Right? So you're lighting your menorah, let's say one light went out. Can you just take the light from another one? Now usually, of course, you could take an extra light. You know, say even the shamash. Okay? You can use it to light all the candles. But suppose you don't have a shamash. Can we light the first candle and then use it to light the others? And of course, as with most Talmudic matters, it's a matter of discussion or debate in the Gemara. And two of the great sages, Rav and Shmuel, they disagreed. Rav said, no, you can't take from an existing light to illuminate another. Shmuel said, yes, you can. Now, normally we have a rule that when Rav and Shmuel disagree, the halacha follows Rav. But there are 3 exceptions, and this is one of them. Why did Rav say you can't take one Hanukkah candle to light the others? Because, as the Gemara says, Kamachish mitzvah. Kamachish mitzvah. You diminish the first candle if you take its light away. Inevitably, you'll spill some of the wax and the oil, and it's going to lose some of its splendor, some of its light. And Rav says, don't do anything that's going to diminish the light of the first candle. But Shmuel disagrees. And the law follows Shmuel. Why? The best way of answering it is to think of 2 Jews. Both religious, both committed, both living Jewish observant lives. One says, I must not get involved with these people who are less religious than me, because if I do, my own standards are going to fall. Just like you take a little bit of light off the candle, it's going to lose a little bit of oil or something. If I do outreach, maybe I'm going to be affected and I'm not going to be as observant, as religious as I should be. So if my light will be diminished, I can't in any way jeopardize it. That's the view of Rav. Shmuel argues. Shmuel says no. When I use the flame of my faith to light a candle in someone else's life, my Jewishness is never diminished. It grows because there's now more Jewish light in the world. When it comes to spiritual goods as opposed to material goods, the more I share, the more I have. If I share my knowledge or my faith or my love or my dedication or my care or my commitment to my studies, then guess what? I won't have less. I may even have more. As the Alter Rebbe writes in the introduction of Tanya that we've been studying this week, when you teach somebody else, Meir Einei Shneim, it illuminates the eyes of both of you. It becomes more crystallized and clear in your own mind. And of course, you teach and inspire somebody else as well. And that's the view of Shmuel. And that is how the halacha was eventually decided. The idea is share your light, share your warmth, share your passion, share your commitment, dedication, your goodness and your kindness. Share your Judaism with others. Take the flame of your faith and help set other souls on fire. With that, my friends, I'll conclude with one story. Somebody once asked the Rebbe Rashab, what is a chassid? What is the definition of a Hasidic Jew? We discussed Hasidus last week. We discussed the idea of the Hasidic movement. What's it all about? And the Rebbe Rashab's response was, a chassid, he lived in Russia, so he used the word is a lampchernik. A chassid is a lamplighter. A lamplighter walks the streets carrying a flame at the end of a pole in olden days, before the days of Eskom, before electricity existed. There was the way you had lights in any city or town. Today they don't work either, but back then, if the lamplighter did his job, he would walk around with a pole and light each of those lamps, and that's how you had light in the streets. So the lampchernik, this lamplighter, knows that the flame is not his. He goes from lamp to set them alight. That's his or her job. So this fellow asked him, he asked the Rebbe, but what if the lamp is far away? What if it's in a desert? The Rebbe said to him, then you go out to the desert. You have to go for your job. If that's your job to light up, to light the streets, then you have to go and light it. And when one lights a lamp in the desert or in a distant island, the desolation of that place, of that desert, becomes visible. The barren wilderness will then be ashamed before the burning lamp. And so he asks, what if the lamp is at sea? And again, the Rebbe says that you have to undress, dive into the sea, go light the lamp. He said, this is a chassid. And the Rebbe said to him, exactly, this is the definition of a chassid. And this man said, but Rebbe, I don't see the lamps. And the Rebbe said to him, then you have to become a lamplighter. How do you become a lamplighter? First, you have to reject the evil within yourself. Start with yourself, he said. Cleanse yourself, refine yourself, and you'll see the lamp within. When you see yourself, the potential in yourself, then you'll see it in others too. When a person is himself coarse, God forbid, then what do you see in others? If you don't have that oomph, if you don't have the excitement, then what are you going to see in other people? When a person is himself refined, then you'll see the refinement in others. And that's exactly an important message of Hanukkah. That we have to give ourselves the light. And if we are bright ourselves, then we have what to light up our surroundings with. Let's illuminate the world. Let's bring light to others, and we'll have the light ourselves. Let's make sure we have the light so we have what to give others too. And I got to say, sometimes it's a struggle to find time in a day to study, to learn, to do what we have to do. But if we realize that we have a shir, we want to teach, we want to inspire, we want to influence others, we make sure we have with what to do so. And then we will be inspired to inspire others. And thereby that light will just be contagious. It will be a super spreader of light. We'll have so much light in the whole world around us. Any questions?
Rabbi?
Yeah.
We light from the left. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you always light the newest candle first, but you're going to put it on the right. So the newest candle will be on the right-hand side, and then you'll put another, let's say the first night, you're going to light all the way on the right. So it's really the right candle. But now on the second night of Hanukkah, you're going to light the left candle first and then the right one. So the newer candle will be lit first.
Thank you.
Good.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
When you are benching Birkat Hamazon, is it Magdil or Migdal during Hanukkah?
Good question. Oh, Hanukkah. I think it's Magdil. I think
Magdil.
Only on Shabbos and Yom Tov, biblical Yom Tovs, is it Migdal.
Even though there's no Tachnun?
Yeah.
As far
yeah.
Thank
as
you.
far as I understand it. If you hear otherwise, please let me know.
No, I think it's Magdil. I'll let you know.
Let's say, guys, we are planning a fundraising event this week, and I need some hands on deck. If anybody wants to get involved and help me out in any way, whether it's making phone calls or sending emails or WhatsApps or helping with the coordination of it, please let me know. We'd like to raise needed funds to pay up for a lot of what we're doing with the seniors' food parcels that we send you. We need to end the year right and to be able to begin the new year on the right track as well. So if anybody wants to get on board, whether it's to solicit funds, get donations, or help us out with this campaign, please let me know. We really need some assistance with that, and I'll be most grateful. So